When a superior man hears of the Tao, he immediately begins to embody it. When an average man hears of the Tao, he retains some and loses some. When a foolish man hears of the Tao, he laughs out loud at the very idea. If it were not for that laugh, it would not be the Tao. Thus it is said, the path into light seems dark. The path forward seems like retreat. The direct path seems empty. The easy way seems hard. True power seems weak. True purity seems tarnished. True steadfastness seems changeable. True clarity seems obscure. The greatest art seems unsophisticated. The greatest love seems indifferent. The greatest wisdom seems childish. The Tao is hidden and nameless, yet it alone nourishes and brings all things to fulfillment.
So what does it mean to be spiritual? You hear this idea, I'm a spiritual person. People will say that about themselves. So what does that mean? Does that mean you're on Facebook and you do all the Tantra stuff and the yoga stuff and all the stuff that people do that make them believe that they're spiritual? What is it that makes a person spiritual? It isn't the philosophy, it isn't the words, it isn't the thoughts, and that's where most people go. It's an intellectual perception that most people have. And because it's intellectual, it doesn't mean a single thing. Just because I know something intellectually doesn't mean I understand it or that I even know it. In fact, the whole idea is the truth cannot be taught. It has to be caught from within oneself. You have to be the truth, not think the truth or think that you know the truth. Truth is something that is found when you hear things rightly. And what do I mean by that? It's about harmony. It's about falling into a certain state of harmony where I'm no longer picking thoughts apart, analyzing and theorizing, where I'm no longer being philosophical, but what I'm trying to do is work my way down deep, deep, deep past words to wordlessness. It is only in the lack of words that I can hear in my mind that promotes the Tao in me, the Tao in you. Harmony is being spiritual. Spiritual is harmony. And learning how to flow with that harmony is what our life is meant to be. But thoughts get in the way of that. And the more you're thinking, the more I'm thinking, the more we're all thinking, the more we create that collective unconscious. And it's so easy to get involved in that and think that I'm being spiritual. So I'm going to give you 3 different kinds of people that hear the Tao. Spiritual is not something you adorn yourself with. It's not some tagline. It's not your last name. It's not a nickname either. Everybody, in one way or another, has this spirituality within them. But I don't like that word as spiritual. It promotes the idea of better than. So kind of where I go with it is in emptiness. The more empty a person can be, the more deeply profound their life becomes. And in that emptiness, where there is a lack of thought, something can live and grow. Something can generate its own life. That generation, that life is called the Tao. And that's why we work so diligently in meditation. That's why we seek that harmony of oneness in our life as a way of life in order to emulate the Tao, to let the Tao live through me. There are 3 different kinds of people that hear the Tao, and when they hear it, they're in a category. And this is not a judgment, and I have found it to be very true in my 40-something years of teaching. There are only 3 types of people in the world. 3. The first one that hears the Tao and understands it, then follows through with it. The second one who hears the Tao and kind of gets it, but isn't willing to really surrender to it. And the third one, which is the majority of people I have found in the world, who hear the Tao and laugh at it. So we're going to go into these 3 and take a look at what it means to be one of these 3. But before we do, you have to understand something. This is not a judgment of you. And you know where you live on the inside. You know what you feel and what you don't feel. If you're a highly emotional person, you've engaged your thoughts into some very petty places. You've gone places inside of you that haven't been very healthy, that have only given you the notoriety of your thoughts and not the meaning of your living. So the person who reads the Tao, who picks it up, who understands what it's really trying to promote, is a person who is a wordless person. They don't need to talk about it. Those who know don't need to talk about it. Those who don't know are always talking about it. And one could be said about this person talking about the Tao to you here on TV and trying to help you understand the nature of it. But forgive my words. Listen to the gap and the pauses, the spaces between my words, because it is only in that gap and pause that you're going to find the meaning of yourself and how the Tao lives inside of you. The object of this series is for you to recognize that something more intelligent lives within you than the mind you and I have cultivated through emotional thinking. That there is something within us that is trying to give way and show us the way inside rather than to allow us to carry on in our futility. If you're done with futile living, if you're done with the idea of looking at your life as a philosophical ideal, if you're done with the idea that thoughts are more important to you than that emptiness that lives inside of you, then you have something very unique going on. I would like to invite you to come and take a look at this with me. And what I'm going to offer to you is, well, one of the three categories that you might fall into. If you're in these three categories, and I think all of us are in all three simultaneous, but we kind of reside in the third one, and we'll talk about that. If you reside in any one of these three, you can call forth the very best of yourself and come to a place where you too can resonate into the harmony of oneness, the Tao. There comes a time in everybody's life where they feel like they really need a change in their living. I offer you 3 retreats every year at Mount Madonna that are very intense, simple, yet very effective. They include meditation, Gestalt therapy, some insight work. Come to the website at aspire.org and take a look at retreats. So back to the 3 kinds of people that are introduced to the Tao. Lao-tzu says that the first man is the superior one. He hears the Tao and knows. There are those people that hear the Tao for the first time. They hear a teaching, let's say from the Buddha or Jesus, and they know, they get it, they feel it. They can resonate to it. Something opens up inside. It isn't a bunch of words, it's something of an opening. A gate opens up, a threshold opens up in them, and they start to be ever so curious about what the pull is that takes them through that gate. The person, as Lao-tzu calls him, the superior person, who hears the Tao for the very first time and knows and resonates to it, is the one who is willing to sell all he has to go into the Tao, to live in it. Jesus talked about this in many different ways. Do you remember the young man that came to Jesus? He had all the money in the world. And he said to Jesus, I've kept the commandments from my youth up. What lack I yet? And we are told that Jesus had compassion upon him. He was able to see through, and he wanted to help the young man. And he said, go and sell all you have and take up your treasure, give it to the poor, and follow me. And he couldn't do it. The man walked away, couldn't do it. This is a man who was not of the superior nature that Lao-tzu is talking about. A man who just heard what he wanted to hear, wanted what he wanted to hear, but was not willing to live what he wanted to hear. There was too much want in it. Listen to me. In every great spiritual effort, there is sacrifice that one must achieve and one must do. It's a part of my karma, too. I have to be willing to let go of the things that have brought me into this life, the way I have come into this life and the way I've lived it. I have to be able to look at my life from the perspective no longer of philosophy or covering up things based on the idea of logic and reasoning. The superior man, the person who hears the Tao, resonates to it and understands it, also understands he's going to change his whole life. People come to me all the time, they say, oh, I want to meditate, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And I ask them, if you meditate, if you're going to really meditate, your life is going to change. And typically they'll come to me and say, well, I'm ready for a life change. And I will say to them something like, well, you're married, you have kids, what's going to happen there? You're going to start to meditate. They're going to think you're creepy. You're going to be spending times with me in session. You're going to be working in workshops and in retreats. You're not going to be spending as much time with them. Maybe you won't go on vacation with them like you used to. And people will look at me and go, really? It's that involved? Yeah, really, it's that involved. They don't want to do it. And they leave very quickly, especially when they find out they have to maybe give some money or do something like that. They're not willing to shed that for the sake of the Tao. So the superior man hears it, understands, is willing to walk away from his old life, no matter what. No matter what. And that's why very few people work on themselves. So what does it mean for me to work on myself? Does it mean I read another book? I hear people say, I read this book and this book. That is not working on yourself. Intellectual insight means nothing. In fact, it's not even insight. Reading books, even watching this video isn't going to be the work for you. Working on yourself requires one thing, the ability to let go of the things that have kept you from yourself, your authentic self, that have kept you from love. It is about a certain sacrifice I have to be willing to make. And that's why people, they feel that their life needs something, but they can't go there because they've got too many emotional obligations, family, children, friends, job, whatever. And they just can't do it. They just won't do it. They won't pick up and just leave and go and do it. Their life is too filled with the things they want to have in their life to support their, the weaker side of their being. This work is about letting go of all of that. The superior man understands that. The superior man, as Lao-tzu talks about, lives through it. And by living through it, it means that he is willing to give up everything. Yes, even his own life. Even Jesus said, your greatest enemy are those of your own household. If you don't hate your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, yea, even your own life, you cannot follow me. And by the word hate in Aramaic means to put away. In other words, until you're willing to let it go. Yes, you have to be willing to go that far. But who's going to do that? And again, that's why we're here on this planet. That's why our karma is the way it is and why we suffer the iniquities we suffer. Your suffering isn't caused by God just going like that and being pissed off at you. My suffering, your suffering is because of the things we won't sacrifice in order to understand the nature of our life and add meaning to our living. There's so much to the three treasures of the Tao, and I'm sure you didn't get everything that I offered here. So I go into the studio and I make very, very important CDs for you. They have all of the discourses I've offered to you here on TV, but also much more in depth. And I think you'll find them very beautiful and very meaningful. If the Tao is to your heart's content, which it is, I think you'll want to order these right away. Go to my website at aspire.org and order yours today. Now back to Aspire. So the second type of person that hears the Tao is one who hears it and remembers a little bit of it and then forgets it and then remembers a little bit of it and then forgets it and then just generally forgets it. These are the group of people, the most that come to me. There are people who want to understand the way, but their minds can't hold it. Their minds can't contain it. They can't, because the Tao is not a thought. It's not a philosophy. It's not a religion. It's not a theory. It has nothing to do with what you can think. It's about my capacity and your capacity to hold something that doesn't regard the idea of thinking right, wrong, good, bad. And you'll notice your mind can always think about what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. But it can't think about that gap between right and wrong and good and bad. That is the gap where the experience of what we're talking about here lives. That's where you live. That's where your life lives. And that's why it is so hard for a person to hear what I'm saying and then kind of try to remember it only to forget it. The forgetting is so easy because you have nothing to relate to. When I'm thinking a normal thought, any kind of thought, I can relate it to an emotion. I can relate it to a past experience. I can relate it to my psychology. I mean, look at your psychology. How much of it can hold nothing, no thing? That is not a psychology. That is way beyond psychology. That is the nature of your being. And the nature of your being has its ebb and its flow, as I've said. It moves along. And once you understand the ebb and flow of your being, then you'll look at the idea of having a thought or not having a thought, and you'll be able to let go of thoughts and not allow them to affect you. But the third kind of person is the one that I most meet in my life. And they're the ones that hear the Tao, or hear a program like this, or see a TV program or listen to a radio program I've done, and then just basically laugh at it. They don't get it at all. You would not believe the ridicule that people have posed upon themselves by ignoring the nature of the Tao. And why do they do that? They do it because of the way they live on the inside. They've never had a thought any deeper than their own gratification. And that's the kind of person that hears the Tao, never gets it, and laughs at it when they hear it or they experience it in some way. What I have given you is the superior man who hears the Tao and gets it right away, dedicates his whole life to it, lives it, breathes it. The second kind of person that hears it kind of imagines what it could be, kind of knows it but doesn't know it. And the third man that just laughs at it and ridicules the Tao. These are the three types. And more than not, I hate to say, we're in the third group, most of us in this world, because we just really don't want to work on ourselves, as I said a little earlier. And what does it mean for me to work on myself? It means that I have to recognize I need to work on myself. Everybody has some kind of strange philosophy about their life, and they've got it all figured out. They think, well, if I live my life this way, I live my life that way, I do this, I don't do that, I guess it'll all pan out. I guess someday it'll all mean something. And that's the way most people live. They wouldn't buy a house that way. They wouldn't buy a car that way. They wouldn't raise their children maybe that way. They want to know everything that's going to happen. But when it comes to their own life, they just really don't care. They don't see the value of what it means to live in a compassion, in an understanding that is beyond their thinking. This philosophy you have about your life, whatever it is, I can guarantee you, it isn't going to bring you to the meaning of your life. And for a lot of you, meaning in life is just what you can eat, drink, and what you can have and get, and that's about it. But for those of you who want something more, you're going to have to be willing to take a look at your life and ask, what would I be willing to sacrifice in order to have a life that is meaningful, a life that would bring me love? Because the only thing that matters in life is love. Real love. No, not the stuff that movies are made out of and emotions can depict, but real love. The love that's in your heart, your real heart, your authentic heart. A love beyond human heart. This takes a great skill. This takes a great dedication. You have to be devoted. You hear people talk about devotion. Devotion not to a religion or a philosophy, but devotion to the way. Lao-tzu calls it the way. The Tao is the way. Buddha called it the way. Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven. It really doesn't matter what you call it. What you must understand is that it is the way. And if I am willing to give of myself to that way, I have found my life and my heart. Please forgive me. Namaste.